This is Buffalo's Uncensored Sports Show. You're watching Buffalo After Dark. Welcome aboard to Buffalo After Dark, everybody. It is Wednesday night, December 20th. It is our last show before Christmas. And of course, you got myself here tonight. You got Mr. I just got back to Long Island, Tiny Hands, Mr. Hansen here. How's it going?
First off, go fuck yourself. And second, Merry Christmas, Tom.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too. I had to put up with your shit in my house for 5 days.
Well, congratulations, you survived.
Yeah, I did. So, anyways, but so we'll talk about your trip a little bit later. But no, how's it going? I know you just got home a little earlier today, and you've been up since the ass crack of dawn.
Yeah, I left Buffalo this morning around 4:30-ish, and I officially left the scene around like 4:45. So what I did was I got out of the hotel or house, whatever you want to call it. I leave the house, I go and get gas, and then it was just straight from there, 6.5 hours. No lunch stops, no nothing. The only stop I had to take was get gas at Windsor, New York, which is about 3 hours outside of Buffalo. And next thing you know, I was just driving back down, and it took a long time for me to get back. And by myself, 6.5 hours, that wasn't too shabby. And I had a little trouble with traffic all the way back in New York City when I was in the Bronx. And then from there, I kind of just scrolled through back to Long Island. And now I'm here at home just relaxing after a long day of unpacking and putting away the stuff for Road to 32 in the box that I've mentioned in the past and all that jazz.
Gotcha. Yeah, and we got to see a lot over the last several days that you were up here, and of course we're going to talk about two completely different games tonight because one of them was actually good, and one of them, as we saw last night, was absolute pure freaking misery. So, what we'll do tonight, due to a Zoom upgrade, we actually cannot do call-ins, but let's jump right into the Sabres. We'll get the worst part of it over with. So the Sabres got their ass handed to them 9-4 last night by who else besides the Columbus Blue Jackets?
The absolute worst team in the Eastern Conference as of now.
Yeah. And all I can say is, the Sabres, Dahlin got us on the board very quickly in the first period,
Which was great at the time.
Which is great. But then, no defense, no hustle on offense. The team was super soft. We couldn't do anything. Before you know it, before the end of the second period, it was 7-2, and both of us just decided, screw it, we're going to go eat dinner over in Southern Tier Brewery. We actually walked out.
I have never, in my life, as a hockey fan, have I ever left the game early in the end of the second period. I'm usually the guy that likes to stay during the games and make it be like, okay, this could get interesting. If it was like a 3-2 game, 4-2 game, okay, we probably would have stayed. But no, dude, 7-2 in the end of the second period. What the actual fuck happened on yesterday? I seriously don't understand that. How is it that a team with this much talent just decides to continue to fuck their own fans over and just constantly just shoving their fist and twisting it right up the prostate until it bleeds? Why? I don't get it. It's 12 years. Enough of the excuses. Seriously, I'm getting pretty fucking pissed about the fact that, oh, Kevin Adams doesn't do anything, which he hasn't. I mean, he's a good evaluator, but he can't do anything. Then you have Don Granato, who just mumbles to himself every fucking day. He makes me look like an amateur because I do that all the time because I can't help it, but there's a difference. But on top of all that, they had a quote-unquote quiet practice today. So it makes me think, oh, there's something going on in the back that we don't even know yet.
Oh, God, help us all. That literally, I've been to many Sabres games over the years, even going back to when I was a little kid here, being in the old Odd. This game that we went to last night, and it wasn't just two of us. Our good old buddy Doug, who ended up being with us last night, our original co-host Vinny Tartacasio actually joined us for a while last night. all four of us were in agreement. This was probably the absolute worst, or I would say top three worst games that we have ever been to. It was just absolutely pathetic from what we saw. And here's the thing. Nobody stood up for anybody last night. Columbus was being physical. They ended up handling us. And it's like, okay, you're down a few goals. Start hitting people. Stop letting Columbus dictate every single thing in the zone. Your neutral zone play sucked. Playing your own zone sucked. Playing Columbus's
Goaltending was
zone sucked.
atrocious.
Goaltending, I mean, both Levi and UPL were getting, or Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen were both getting eaten alive because there was no support.
No,
I
there
mean,
wasn't.
I mean, what do you expect this team to do?
At that point, I don't even know. And what I want to know is how the hell does Don Granato, as of December 20th, how the hell does he still have a job? That's what I want to know.
That's another good thing I want to talk about because right now, Granato, whether anyone acknowledges it or not, he is on the hot seat at this
He
point.
should be, and he
He
deserves
has
to
to
be.
be he has to be on the hot seat because this team is massively underperforming compared to where it should be right now. And the fact that we have a losing record, sure, Jack Quinn came back last night. He did absolutely nothing. I expected him to do absolutely nothing coming off the ACL tear that he ended up having. So of course it's going to be a quiet game for him. But when you have players such as Alex Tuch, you have Krebs, you have Thompson, you have Olofsson, you have Skinner, you have all these top line players that you can work with, and you're still getting nothing done. It's got to come down to coaching at this point. And the biggest thing I would say is, okay, Granato, sure, he got him to the point where we were 1 point out of the playoffs last year. We had some pretty good stretches, but the problem is he's like, oh well, I can't coach him the same way like I did last year. Well, simple, Granato, stop being buddy, grow a sack, and lay down the law in the locker room. And if you can't do it, then get your ass out and let's go get someone like a Bruce Boudreau or Gerard Gallant or someone that's going to be similar to that because
Hell,
obviously things are not working right now.
hell, I would even take a look at Jay Woodcroft. But us being Sabres fans, we both know what their next plan is going to be. They're going to fire Granato. And they're gonna say, "Oh, it's gonna be because of creative differences." Then they're gonna suck somebody else's dick that played for the Sabres 20 fucking years ago, like Jay McKee, for example. And they're gonna bring in Jay McKee, I think, and he's gonna be their quote unquote mentor. What is that gonna tell you? If there's anything I've learned about the Pagula family, it's that they're more interested in being buddy buddy with the alumni than
Mm-hmm.
they are of actually developing a hockey team. That's my biggest gripe on the Pagulas. He does it same thing with the Bills. He's more interested in being buddy buddy with the organization with McDermott and Bean, but at least right now the Bills are fine. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's a completely different story. But the Sabres, ever since, and I made this comment a few weeks ago, I said ever since the Pagula family, ever since they bought the Bills, they stopped giving a shit about the Sabres and they left them to die. And it clearly shows. And what's even more embarrassing is that this is right before Christmas. And the next thing you know, you have Columbus come into town, and Columbus is a bad team. But
Oh yeah.
this game was just, there was no excuses based on what happened yesterday. This was my first live game in 4 years. I have not seen a Sabres win in Buffalo since 2012 against Dallas. Okay. That was like late February at that time. But back to my point. I haven't seen a Sabres win in Buffalo every time I visit in 10 years. It's insane. Every other game I went to since then, they've all been losses. And it's going to be because, oh, the coaching staff is bad. Oh, there's no chemistry with the players. I am so sick of the same fucking blueprint that they've been working on for the last
Mhm.
12, 13 years. It's like, when is it going to stop? Like, I don't get it. Where is
Yeah.
the accountability from the Pagulas? Where's the
Mhm.
accountability from within the executive department? The Sabres are being run like a country club. It's inexcusable. terrible. And you know what? I'm going to say this now. I'm kind of glad that Jack Eichel requested a trade, and as angry as we can get about them winning a cup, he actually did the right thing. And because he got rid of this shit show, which now I used to think it was all about Eichel being a douche. Now it's about the team itself. Eichel hasn't been on the team in almost 3 years, and yet here we are back to square one, and they have learned
Mhm.
nothing within that time frame.
Right. And then let's look at it right now. As of today, with that loss, the Sabres are 13, 17, and 3. And here we were last season. We were talking about, okay, this team should start taking a step forward. We should be contending for a wild card spot. This team is not even close at this point, like
I think anybody
considering anything we've done. And the
anybody
thing I would love to figure out, how is it that we can beat good teams and we play like absolute crap against bad teams?
I feel like the Sabres have a blueprint for like six of the teams in the NHL that are elite. Boston, the Rangers, Vegas, Toronto. How is it that they're able to beat those teams, but you can't beat teams that are worse than you?
Right.
Like that to me makes absolutely zero sense.
Right. Columbus, we should have been on the 9-4 end in terms of getting the win.
And if anything, this team alone makes no sense. They play great against the good teams, but then they just fall flat on their face against one of the worst teams in the
Mhm.
league. This is a fucking joke. Like I can't, I'm so angry just from having to be sitting there in public with you and making comments about the game saying, wow, this team has been playing like shit, but I didn't expect any different. But never in a million years would I ever get that pissed off at a Sabres game, whether it's with you, whether it's with anybody else I ever go to games with.
Mhm.
Hell, the Islanders have never put up this type of shit with me. And I go to a hell of a lot of Islander
Right.
games. I can tell you for a fact, because I'm 31 years old, I can tell you within my lifespan as a hockey fan, never have I ever seen an Islander game this piss poor in my life compared to the Sabres. That's a
Yeah.
fucking joke.
Yeah, this is just straight up trash. And then it was interesting because that arena cleared out real quick.
Oh yeah, and traffic was a lot easier to get out of.
Oh yeah, we had an empty train ride back. Like literally, there was like 8 people on there besides us, which is usually never the case. I mean, pretty much what we ended up doing, we went to Southern Tier Brewery. We just ended up eating and drinking. So that's pretty much how we ended up killing the rest of the night. But this
Yeah.
team, it is just, there's no direction whatsoever. And I will say Kevin Adams has done some decent things with the cap and he has done some decent drafting. But the problem is now your coach ain't getting it done. That's where we are at.
Let's be
And
honest.
let's be honest, Granado needs to go.
The only reason that Don Granato, why I think was still able to succeed a job in the NHL as a coach within the last few years was because there was no film on his structure at the time as to why the Sabres were playing phenomenally. Now everybody has tape on them and everybody has figured out the coaching system. And it's like, this is a fucking joke. Literally, I sat through that game and I said, where's the heart? There's no forechecking. There's no chemistry within the 3-4 lines. There's no defensive play at all. The only one who's actually trying is Rasmus Dahlin. And a
Mhm.
lot of people theorize that the reason why the Sabres are in the situation they're in now is mainly because they believe that Cousins got paid, Thompson's got paid, um, everybody got paid. Samuelson got paid. Ever since they
Mhm.
got paid $7 million and they all got the same deal, nobody gives a shit. And I think to me, a lot of people think that that was because that's why they stopped giving a shit and why production is down. But then again, injuries happen in the NHL. It happens. It's the
Mhm.
National Hockey League. It's going to happen. But then again, I can't stress this enough. I mean, I was so excited to go to this game, with the Goat Head uniforms and getting to see
Mhm.
my first Sabres game in 4 years. And it's just like I was so pumped. And then all of a sudden, it literally I watched the team die live.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
I
it,
can't
it was
stress
a
this
it
enough.
was a quick death.
Oh yeah, it was like it's like almost a situation where you feed a rabbit to a Burmese python. You think the rabbit survives, but then the python literally, constricts it and clogs
Mhm.
out its windpipe and struggles and then kills it.
Yeah.
And then the rabbit gets swollen whole. That's
Mhm.
basically the analogy of the Sabres.
Yeah.
There's no like oxygen going to the brain. Like that's how bad this is.
Yeah. And if we thought the first period was bad, the second period was even worse.
My God.
I
And the
mean,
fact that we were all sarcastically cheering when Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen or Devin Levi, for that matter, not really Devin Levi, but Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I remember looking back at that game, and I said this to Doug, and I said, "What?" Immediately after the first shot, after Luukkonen was put in the net, I said to Doug, watch it be a rich shot from the point, and then, boom, 3 seconds later they score.
mhm. Oh yeah.
I
And
called it.
absolutely zero defense. Absolutely zero defense. And literally that, like where we were in the upper deck on a 300 level in that arena, the entire back row was cleared out like pretty quickly. We actually had people screaming, "Sell the team, Terry." We actually heard that.
Yeah,
And
we also
then,
heard fire, Donnie,
yeah, there was that. And then Dwayne Stanell decided to put a bag on his head.
paper bag Dwayne. But no, but I think it's funny how we have a right to be angry at this team. But I mean, if it was like a 3-2 game and they came up short, okay, I would be more accepting of that. But yesterday was just straight up unacceptable, no matter how you splice it. It was just so pathetic. I genuinely thought that the Sabres were going to win that game. And a lot of people thought they were as well. They were a better roster
They
team than
should have.
Columbus. The only
Yeah,
difference is Columbus had freaking Johnny Gaudreau and a young, team with a young defensive core. I mean, is it like what it was during the Schwarber era? No, but I could certainly say that that team shows no compassion, no heart, no grit, nothing. It's so disgraceful and it's disgusting that I've actually had to sit there. Not that it's anybody's fault for that matter. I mean, we're all
mhm.
for just thinking, it's going to be a close game. The only people that can be blamed in the situation is the team themselves. But what's even more disgusting is how Kyle Oposo um was had the audacity to say, the fans have a right to say what they have to say, but we were part of the problem, and we're half of it wasn't our fault.
They are the problem. And then, of course, with the comment that came out talking about, oh well, it's not Donnie's fault, it's not the GM's fault. Basically, look at guys, it's everybody's fault, but yet the players don't want to accept accountability.
No, they don't. But I give Kyle Oposo credit for talking to the media right afterwards. That's what I give him credit for. But his excuse to why they played so piss poor doesn't justify his comments. Because at that point, he pissed off a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I get it. He ended up talking to the media, but he totally said the wrong things. It's like here's what I would have done if if I were on this team and they came out the way that they did, I would just straight up say, "Hey, we sucked. We were not prepared. We need to find a way to be prepared." And accountability starts with myself, and then I'm going to make others on this team accountable. That's what the approach that Poso should have taken, and not go on the way he did by basically deflecting it.
Yeah, really. Like that was just, and people are like, "Thank God he's gonna be gone soon anyway." And people are like, "Oh, cut him. Cut him for what? Making one comment?" Yeah, Oposo is not what he used to be, but making him captain, I never thought he was captain material ever. Even when he was named captain, I
Exactly.
said he's not captain material. Like, yeah, he was an assistant captain with John Tavares for all those years with the Islanders, but it doesn't qualify him to be a captain at that point of his career. It's like, yeah, the Sabres are still young and there's plenty of time to turn the team around, but it's just utter bullshit that the Sabres are literally sitting there on their hands with it up their ass to do nothing about it. They
Yeah.
refuse to acknowledge of fixing the problem. It's the equivalent to what Peter Parker in the Spider-Man comics, when he gets the Venom symbiote, he has a hard time taking it off, and he always bragged about how that was going to make him the better
Mhm.
Spider-Man, and yet he goes into all kinds of problems, and he gets rid of the symbiote within using the freaking church bell, and then it removes it. It's the equivalent to a drug addiction. The Sabres are addicted to shitty, mediocre hockey.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it too. I mean, it actually kind of reminded me of a speech that actually would have been perfect right now, and that is, if you remember, well, for people that remember Kyle Williams before he retired on the Bills, he was like one of those that would basically force people to be accountable. And I remember one of his speeches where he ended up saying it was when they were in a losing season, and he ended up telling people find one person and make them accountable, and then he basically turned around and said straight up, he doesn't give a fuck. He'll be accountable to all 52. And he's told straight up, it starts with him. So
Yes.
so
All right,
talking
tie
about
game
that.
in Washington. The Islanders just tied it. Hudson Fasching just scored, and now it's 1-1 in Washington.
Another ex Saber does something well.
Well, he's not that great, but either way.
Yeah. But
So, anyways,
in either case, just kind of like tying it together. I mean, Kyle Williams, he was basically the undisputed captain of that locker room. He would hold everybody accountable, including himself.
well, he's
Kyle
the
Okposo, on the other hand, doesn't.
but here's the thing. Kyle Williams was a leader, and he was on the Bills for so long. He's never seen the playoffs until that last minute with I think it was the second to last year
Mm-hmm.
of his playing days,
Yeah.
where I think he was definitely part of the team that helped them end the drought.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of
It
Bills fans
was.
remember about him. But that's not the argument. The argument is that Kyle Williams was a heart and soul guy. He loved that team, no matter how people described it. He
Mm-hmm.
loved playing football. He was a leader in all, and he was very well respected. That's why people liked Kyle Williams, including myself. I always liked Kyle
Yeah.
Williams.
Great player.
But
Absolutely enjoyed him.
now, if you compare that to Kyle Oposo, who from firsthand experience was a great player in his heyday with the Islanders, when he went to the Sabres, he was supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be the bargaining bin version of Steven Stamkos, and that clearly did not work out that way. Like, yeah, he went to an All-Star game, but outside of that, Kyle Oposo has done nothing. He's washed up at this point, and I'm sorry,
Right.
that's reality of the situation. Kyle Oposo, he's just wasting his time. He knows it, that his time is coming to an end soon. He should
Mm-hmm.
have retired a year ago, and that's just reality. I mean, if anything, this team needs to be held accountable. There's nothing going on. Because when was the last time, Tom, that you and I talked about this briefly? When was the last time the Sabres actually had a legitimate, like, hard-nosed captain?
I mean, definitely not been in many years, actually. And I would say legitimately the last tough as nails captain. Let's go all the way back to Michael Pekka.
I agree.
That's
I
about
think
20 years.
yeah, and Michael Pekka is one of my all-time favorite players, even when
Yeah.
he's on the Islanders. I always respected Michael Pekka.
Mm-hmm.
I have. But Michael Pekka always held players accountable, whether no matter where he was. He held Alexei Yashin accountable. He held
Mm-hmm.
Miro Shatan accountable. He held a lot of players accountable. But the problem is they've they've bought into this bullshit culture into thinking, oh, it's okay to lose. We're gonna go on vacation early anyway. Why does anybody have that mentality? Is beyond me. But it's the fact
Exactly.
that they don't give a shit. And all they care about is they don't care if they lose games. They don't care if they win games. As long as they get what they want as far as money goes, then
Mm-hmm.
that's the only thing that matters to them. Other than that, they don't give a shit. They need to
Right.
have a culture change. They need to bring in a real coach because Kevin Adams, again, is a buddy executive with the Pagulas. That's the only reason why he got a job. Same with Granado. He's only there because he was an assistant coach for Ralph Kruger. And once Kruger got fired, because he was probably the worst coach they ever had, Granado at least had some sort of fight in them for a couple of years he was there. But now his time is up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I say, who is worse, Ron Ralston or Don Granado?
I would probably say I would probably say Ralston only because Rolston had no vision. He was never a head coach anywhere except for like college. So that's really about it. And he also was famous for the garden gloves that he used to wear
Oh
at the
God.
at practice. Yeah. Remember that shit with Ron Rolston?
Yeah, he was such a pussy.
Yeah, really. Everybody the Sabres have hired within the last few handful of years, like 10 years. Every coach they brought in has just an utter ass. I mean, going back to what? Lindy Roth, he was the last hard-nosed coach that they've
Mm-hmm.
had. Then you had Ron Rolston. You had Ted Nolan for a little while, which I would have loved to keep Ted Nolan, but
Yeah,
there's speculation that he might come back, which I don't
we'll
know if he'll
see.
do it at that point.
Right.
And then you have,
Bielsa.
yeah, Dan Bylsma. That's another one. Then you have
Then he
Ralph
had
Kruger. What? Oh, Phil
No,
Housley.
no,
That's
before
right.
you had Phil Housley.
Phil Housley, Ralph Kruger, Doc Granato. So yeah, that's seven coaches. Seven coaches in 12 years, Tom.
You're not going to establish a system that way.
No, you will not. And you are sure as hell not going to get people who want to come to play for you. Not to mention the Pagulas are a bunch of cheap bastards. Especially with the fact that ever since, if you remember back in 2011 when they bought the team from Tom Golisano,
Mm-hmm.
they were able to go on a killing spree with their money when they actually made the playoffs. But I don't even count that as a playoff appearance for Pagula because he bought the team midway through the season.
Right. At least Golisano, even though he wanted to be cheap, and at least with the fact that he wanted a team to make money, at least on the flip side, his teams were the teams under that era were still more competitive then compared to what we have now.
I honestly, I would much rather go back to the Galsano era than I would with the Pagulas. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, people will say, "Oh, the Pagulas are the best," but there's also a double-edged sword because without the Pagulas, the Bills would not be here. Let's be
Right.
honest. But but the Sabres, the same thing could be said. The only reason that the both teams are there is because of him. That's the only benefit that Terry Pagula gets. But outside of that, he is a worthless, cheap bastard. And he honestly doesn't really care about winning. He basically just goes up to Kevin Adams and says, okay, we want to improve the team. Go get geriatric Eric Johnson and go get, Slim Shady Connor Clifton from Boston and then do nothing in the offseason for the goaltending system. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, it's basically the same fucking team as last year. The only difference is Eric Johnson is on it.
Yeah. True story. True story. And Eric Robinson. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have never been this angry at the Sabres in my life.
Yeah, it's not good right now, guys.
No, it's not.
It's not good. Well, simple. I'll make it real quick before we go into the break. Ways to fix the Sabres: A, fire Don Granato.
And B, stop being
Fire
a
Matt
bitch.
Ellis.
Matt Ellis needs to go fuck himself, okay?
That was another thing we talked about during the game. Like all four of us, we're like, how do you let Michael Pekka go and then replace him with Matt Ellis, who was a wannabe player during his time up here, who could absolutely do nothing but basically get stomped over his own ass, and basically he never made any type of decent play 99% of the time. He was one of those players that was a career AHL player at best.
Made you basically an underachiever.
Oh yeah, he was a massive underachiever.
But the thing that pisses me off, and the only reason why I think Matt Ellis got a job with the team is again, back to my earlier statement. The Bagulas are more interested in being buddy buddy with the alumni than they actually
Mm-hmm.
are about building a team.
Yeah. And hey, you can't be buddy buddy when it comes to that.
You know what? I'm gonna be as arrogant as this sounds, and it's gonna come back to bite me. Is
Mm-hmm.
if Pagula died tomorrow, I wouldn't feel sad on honestly, and I'm not being mean. That's genuinely the reality of the situation. He gives more shits about the Bills. I mean, it's great that he's taking care of the Bills, but as far as the Sabres, it's a completely different story.
Yeah, it's just straight up horseshit hockey, basically.
It's
That was
inexcusable.
easily top three worst game I've ever been to.
I would probably say that's the worst game I ever been to. I really don't have a top three, but I
Yeah.
have been to, like I said in the past, I've been to a shitload of Islander games like that. And I've seen a lot of Sabres games in
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo like that. But that was easily the worst game I have ever went to in my life.
Yeah. I'm trying to even think of like some of the really bad ones I've gone to, because I remember like a couple times when I've been to Sabres games previously where we've had some really bad outings, but this honestly, out of probably hundreds of games I've seen, this that's what I was thinking. It has to be top three, but this is easily the worst game I've seen in 5 years.
I'm just
I
saying
mean,
it's
there's just no way around it. This game just straight up sucked. And it was funny because Andy was like, yeah, you're jinxing them. You might want to leave now. I'm like, well, we did leave not long after that.
what do you mean we jinxed them? What are you talking about?
Oh, he was thinking our appearance was jinxing the team.
Oh, so for me, traveling 6.5 hours is jinxing them. Yeah, go fuck yourself, Andy.
Yeah. Yeah, but Trevor had a good point also. He's like, yeah, they should fire everybody. I mean, in terms of like the front office, which I mean, well, unfortunately, it didn't happen, but
It's a joke at this point.
yeah, it is.
Fucking joke. I'm just so sick of this shit. Every year, the fans have to unfortunately deal with their bullshit. I feel like we've been going on for this for about 40 minutes. Like it's a fucking joke. Like there's
Yeah.
literally like there's no identity with this team. Oh, you have Alex Tuck who has a dog. Yeah, congratulations. Just like 1/3 of every human being in the United States. And then you
Mhm.
have the Wooville that they tried to trend on with the Grinch and all that. Oh, let's just bring in the sled from the movie, the How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey. Yeah, cool, but we didn't find it. Why? Because it was outside of the Alumni Plaza? Yeah, congratulations, guys. And then on top of all that, oh, how about this? How about this? Stop getting fucking dogs. The dogs put in more effort in their advertising than the actual fucking team.
Yeah, and you wonder why the Sabres don't have a Facebook page anymore.
Say, really? They don't have a Facebook page?
Yeah, they took it down.
What?
Yeah, they only have Twitter now or X.
Are you sure?
Yeah, yeah, it's been gone for like 3 months.
Are you sure? Because I'm literally on it right now, and there's a live conference from Don Granado. There's some conferences comments from like Darlene, and then today at the Osai Children's or Roswell Park or whatever.
Uh, well, it's funny because when I do the search on my Facebook, yeah, it's not even doesn't even exist.
I'm just saying it's a fucking joke.
What they do?
I
Freaking shadow ban me now or something?
have no idea, but fuck this team, man. Seriously, fuck them all. Fuck the Sabres. Fuck the Pagulas. Fuck this team in general. Fuck the coaching staff. Fuck the incompetence. Fuck everything about this team. I fucking hate them.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah,
But
really. I mean, the Islanders used to be like this, but at least the Islanders didn't go through a 12-year playoff drought compared to now.
right.
And you know what's really sad is the Islanders are one of the oldest teams in the NHL, and they have a better record than the Sabres.
It's very true.
This is a
It's
goddamn joke.
yeah. And speaking of them, they are tied at 1, so that's where we're
Yeah.
at now. But in the meantime,
I mean, if they beat the Caps, that'd be awesome.
right. But in the meantime, hey, we figured, well, now that we're a half hour in, when we come back from the break, let's talk about some better stuff. And we'll talk about the Buffalo Bills win and we'll talk about the trip. So stay with us. We'll be right back. I'm Tom Wujek, co-host of Buffalo After Dark. Founded by Matthew Keeler, Dishin is a Buffalo-based fashion label focusing on continuous experimentation in hockey. Their work consists of products, content, and experiences that inspire creativity. Playful curation provides energy that sparks a unique perspective and an ideology around seeing the game differently. Now you can save. Log on to justdishin.com and use promo code WUJEK at checkout. You'll save 10% on all of your purchases. That is spelled WUJEK. Dishin has built an influential following devoted to the infusion of creative expression through high-quality goods and tasteful collaboration. If you love creative products that push the boundaries, check out Dishin. Visit their website at justdishin.com. This is Buffalo's Uncensored Sports Show. You're watching Buffalo After Dark. Welcome back to the second half of Buffalo After Dark. Of course, you got the two of us here for the next half hour. And if you didn't see the first half hour, we ended up going on a pretty big rant about how much the Sabres are absolute dog shit right now. But let's talk about some better stuff. And let's talk about the Buffalo Bills, because you know what? There's a much better upside right now. And we did have a chance to go to the game this past Sunday. We were all there in the rainy weather, and basically the Buffalo Bills curb stomped the Dallas Cowboys 31-10.
Woo! That was something.
Oh,
That
now
was something.
now memo to Pagula. This is what happens when you keep your hands off the team and you have actual good football people running it.
Yeah, he can still go fuck himself.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, man, that is a fun game to go to. We were up in the upper deck, and all I gotta say, thank you, Joe Brady, for unleashing the beast known as James Cook,
Oh my God,
because
James Cook.
he lit a new ass.
Yep, the 2023 Week 15 NFLPA's Offensive Player of the Week. Oh my
There
God,
is
two
no way
touchdowns.
anyone else could have gotten that.
What was it? Two touchdowns and 179 rushing yards total.
Yeah, 100 of them in the first half alone.
I cannot stress enough of how great the Bills played on Sunday. I genuinely okay. Where do we even begin with this game? First off, this whole thing with Road to 32 with the Bills and the Sabres. Um, you could thank my buddy Chris Millman, by the way, who is a behemoth Dallas Cowboys fan. And this all started back like in 2019 when the Bills played the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day. The Bills beat them. And
Mhm.
I said to my buddy Chris, I said, who came with us on this trip, I said to him, hey, the next time the Bills play the Cowboys, we gotta at least go to one of those games, whether it's in Dallas, whether it's in Buffalo, it doesn't matter. And he says, oh yeah, I'm totally up for it. And then several years later, they go on the schedule and they play the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm like, all right, let's go get tickets. And sure enough, we get tickets, and I gotta tell you, when we got back from Toronto, which we'll get to later,
Mhm.
he was talking metric tons of shit. And then and then I just kept my mouth closed, and it was cold, it was rainy, it was windy. Like, I can't express this enough. And the atmosphere was loud. That
Mhm.
was probably the loudest game I've ever been to for a Bills game.
Yeah, it was a fun atmosphere, and I mean the rain. It was coming down in the first quarter, came down in the fourth quarter. We were bundled up pretty good, but hey, we stayed dry, and it's all in the prep of how you do that. But I gotta say, like literally, ever since that opening drive, we just straight up punched them in the mouth.
Oh
And
yeah,
that was
definitely.
just straight up old school run it down their throat football. And I was like, oh my God, this is just beautiful to watch. But remember that one play where James Cook wasn't even tackled for about 11 yards and he had like 9 defenders dragging off his back?
Yeah, that's for sure. The what in the first quarter with all the linemen,
Yeah,
they were trying to push him in, and it's like push.
right. And no one could stop him. No one could
No.
stop him. So that was awesome to see. Love the fact that he's getting more involved in the passing game. I mean, Josh Allen only threw for 94 yards. And
Well,
he
it's
still ended up whipping their ass. And the funny thing is that Jerry Jones is now blaming it on it was the weather conditions that caused all these problems. And then Sports Illustrated had something about, oh, well, the Dallas Cowboys had a stomach bug that went through their locker room. Who gives a crap?
seriously, like literally, all this is for the Cowboys is a wheel of excuses. That's all it is. Oh, the weather this, the weather that. Dude, shut up. You play in a fucking dome in the middle of Arlington, okay? Shut the fuck up, you degenerate piece of shit. So at that point in time, though, I gotta say the weather played a huge part. And the Cowboys, and I said it to Melvin all week, the Cowboys are not built as a road team. And they lost to the goddamn Cardinals, for God's sakes. I mean, yeah, the
Oh,
Bills lost
yeah.
to the Patriots, but at least the Bills right now are playing great football. They annihilated the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. They beat the Cowboys on Sunday, and they almost beat the Eagles several weeks ago, or
Yeah.
at that point a month ago. So really, in retrospective, the Bills have just completely changed their identity just from one move. And then now look at them. They went from having one of the worst offenses in the NFL who couldn't score points to try to make Josh Allen into a pocket passer into what it looked like back in the 1990s with Jim Kelly and, Thurman Thomas.
Mhm.
That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, there was actually one drive during the game, and I'm not sure if you caught this, but there was one drive where there was 14 plays and we ran it 13 out of the 14 plays.
Yeah. You know what's really ironic about all this is going into the game with the media hyping it all up statistically, the Cowboys were registered as a top three defense in the NFL. And people were saying, oh, the Cowboys are going to give the Bills fits. It's like, okay, we'll see how they do. And sure enough, the Cowboys go to Buffalo and they don't even
Mhm.
bother to show up. Zach Martin got hurt, and then Dak Prescott did not look comfortable throughout that whole game.
Oh, he got sacked at least 3 times.
Yep, and he had one interception, which, by the way, this whole narrative about Dak and Josh Allen throwing INTs, Dak now has more turnovers than Josh Allen.
Yep. Yeah, and Dak wasn't even getting the ball off clean either.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. And the Cowboys at that time were the leaders in the NFC East. All they had to do was just beat the Bills, and they would have crushed their dreams. But no,
Mhm.
Buffalo is doing God's work right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have said ever since they beat the Chiefs and the Cowboys, the Bills are now a top five team again.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, also getting rid of Ken Dorsey helped them too because we actually have a fucking run game for a change.
Thank God. So I think Joe Brady is single handedly saving McDermott's ass.
Yeah. And he's proven why he should be the OC. So, which will probably likely happen at this point. That's just my guess. I mean, Brady's done a lot to totally do a 180 on that offense. And the funny thing now is that anyone who comes to play the Bills at this point, you've really got to be second guessing what's going to happen because now, with the fact that James Cook, he's averaging ever since Joe Brady took over, he's averaging around 24 touches a game compared to 14. And then on top of it, he's at like almost 7.9 yards a carry.
Yep. And
When
again,
when
going
you have
back,
a running back averaging more than 7 yards a carry, you gotta pray that something happens to him.
well, like dating back to my comments several weeks ago, and it's 2-1 Capitals. Fuck. Anyways, so dating back to when I said when Dorsey was the OC, I remember saying to you on the show they needed to
Mhm.
start running the ball more frequently with
Yeah,
James Cook. And then instead, they turned Josh Allen into a pocket passer, which clearly did not work, and hence why he got fired,
mhm.
thankfully. And people thought that was just a desperation move. Looking back on it, I don't think it was desperation. I think it's just because the Bills needed to do something and their identity was falling fast. So
Yeah.
getting rid of Dorsey was probably the best thing that happened to the team. And then
Oh yeah.
looking at it now, Brady comes up with original answers. His schemes are working very, very well. Nobody has any idea how
Mhm.
he's going to do in the playoffs. And I feel so bad for whoever the Bills might have to play in the playoffs
Oh
because right
God.
now, and
I would not want to play them.
I am telling y'all right now, the Bills will make the playoffs.
Yeah, and here's the thing. With Joe Brady, he actually does something that Dorsey doesn't, and that's called making adjustments.
Yep.
I mean, he adjusted perfect to Dallas. He just figured, okay, well, Dallas wants to try and throw a ball. Guess what? I mean, their defense, especially with Parsons, I mean, he's one dimensional. We're just going to run the ball down their throat and we're going to gas the defense out. And that's
Yep.
exactly what they did.
Yeah. I should also mention that Josh Allen now holds the NFL record for most games in a season with a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown, 10
Mhm.
each. So 10 passing touchdowns and
Nice.
10 rushing touchdowns.
Nice. Yeah,
So,
and just to give you an idea, it with the game this past Sunday. So, in terms of total yards, Dallas had 195. The Bills had 351 total yards, 85 passing yards versus 106. But here's the key stat. Rushing yards, Dallas had 89. We ended up running the ball for 266 yards.
so now I think that game alone is a statement to the league saying the Dallas Cowboys are not immortal because if you look at the pass at the run game all
Mhm.
night, on Sunday, the Bills were just run, run, run. And that's exactly what they should have done all year
Yeah.
long. Make it less, difficult for Josh Allen to play hero ball, but rather play smart. And that's something I'm starting to
Mhm.
notice. He's starting to understand the system a hell lot better than what Dorsey tried to do. So,
Exactly.
and at that point, he's now seeing the confidence in himself. And he's saying, I don't have to play hero anymore. I have a great receiver in Stephon Diggs. I have a great running back in James Cook. I have a really good offensive line. I got great tight ends. And if I have to run, then I'll have to run when I need to, but I don't
Mhm.
have to go crazy. So that's a nice piece of like fresh air
Yeah.
that's really coming out with the Bills. You know,
Yeah, and Josh Allen still got some runs in, and he got a rushing touchdown. So it's like the design plays finally came back in that Dorsey took away from him,
yep,
and it's allowing Josh Allen to be effective because what's happening now is that with defenses going up against the Bills, especially the last several weeks since the change happened, the defenses have no clue what to do half the time,
right.
and
I
that's what
mean,
you want.
right. And you want to make it as dimensional as possible. If you're a triple dimensional team, oh boy, the Bills have that right now. isn't it kind of scary when you think about it? As of now, the Bills right now have a better offense than the Kansas City Chiefs and the
Hmm.
Philadelphia Eagles. It really think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean Kansas City is like decimated on offense right now, and who knows if their running back Pacheco is going to be back in. But oh
I don't
my
know, man.
God, I mean they're peaking right now. The Bills seem to be peaking at the right time, and that change was absolutely needed to survive and get to where we're going to probably be in the playoffs. And I mean, here's another good stat that I could tell you. I mean, third down efficiency, the Bills converted 55% of the time. So we're getting those first downs when we need them, which is great. But here's another interesting stat. There is only 6 penalties throughout the entire game. Dallas had 5 of them.
Well, and
So we had one for 15 yards on some phantom unsportsmanlike conduct bullshit play.
yeah,
But
you know what's really funny? I'm glad you brought that up because there were a lot of Cowboys fans. Even Millman said it after the game because it was us two, Millman and his brother Andrew. All four of
mhm,
us went to the Bills Cowboys game, and Millman has never seen a Cowboys game live. He is a Cowboys fan and he's been to NFL games before, but never with one that was revolved around the Dallas Cowboys. Because
mhm,
again, he's a Cowboys fan. So he comes up to me after the game, after talking metric tons of shit on Saturday, the night before the game, and I said, "Don't do it." And what do you know? The Bills win. And I'm glad
yeah,
that I kept my mouth shut because I didn't say a word all weekend, thankfully. And Tom
mhm,
would be the first one to tell you that. I don't talk trash before games. I just say, well, hopefully they do it. I mean, I always want to have confidence in the team, and that's exactly what happened. But after the game, Millman went on a tangent, not like when they lost kind of mentality. It's more of the only reason why the Bills beat the Cowboys the way they did was because at that time the Cowboys already clinched the playoff spot and they stopped giving a shit. And it's like, well, why does it matter at this point? Well, every game has to matter because you still have to win the
mhm,
NFC East. You still have the
of
Eagles right
course.
up your ass. And on top of all that, every game mattered. So
Right.
I don't understand that mentality of, oh, they made the playoffs, so why does it matter? Like, no, you're supposed to keep playing until you actually win the division.
Mhm,
That's what good teams do. The Patriots were never like that. When Tom Brady was in his prime, or when the 49ers were in their prime with Joe Montana and all that, the Miami Dolphins were like that at one point. They would always say, well, we already closed the playoff spot, so why try? That's such a shitty mentality to have.
yeah. True story. And just, I mean, everything worked out perfect for what we needed to do during that game. Simple. The Bills stepped up, they answered the bell, and they basically punched the Cowboys right in their throat. So it was absolutely
Absolutely.
beautiful to see. And then here's one other thing, too, time of possession. The Bills had the ball for 35 minutes and 5 seconds.
That's pretty good.
That's definitely good. So,
But
I mean,
also, Josh Allen also got the game ball, which I was just like, how does James Cook not get the ball? But then Josh Allen comments on it, which I think went viral, pretty honestly.
mhm,
And I honestly really like that he was honest about it because it's like, I don't deserve it. And he basically said that was all James Cook. So the comment that I'm talking about is I didn't really do anything. It's like a kid in a class project who
right.
doesn't really do anything but still gets an A for it. That's what Josh Allen felt about the game. So
Mhm,
James Cook did most of the work, which is great to see, but Josh Allen got the game ball. Why? Because
yeah.
he had a record-breaking thing in one season against one of the best defensive teams in the NFL.
Mhm,
Like it's like how do you prescribe that, honestly?
yeah. True story. But no, it really worked out great for what we needed to do this past Sunday. And Dallas was a good test. Kansas City's been a good test. So now what do we have next? The LA Chargers. And the
Well,
Chargers ended up going through some changes of their own.
Brandon Staley being fired, getting their ass kicked by the Raiders in a convincing
Yep.
fashion.
Yep. Very true. And here's the thing I would say about this game. As long as the Bills keep doing what they've been doing the last few weeks and just run the ball down their throat, you should be fine.
Absolutely. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they're definitely going to win. I just say it like any other team. I'd be like, well, hopefully they can do it. Because there's an old saying, obviously, and it's any given Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the truest statement you could possibly think of in football. I mean, there's plenty of teams that have beaten good teams in the past, but at this point
Mm-hmm.
in time, every game matters. It's not about if it's easy or hard. You still have to play, no matter who you
Right.
are. look at Miami. A lot of Dolphins fans, by the way, are getting really nervous and they're starting to get a little snarky because they know the
Mhm.
Bills are coming and they know that they're going to take over the AFC East at the end of the week and the end of the season,
Yeah.
basically.
Well,
Because
even
right now,
their coach was on a hot mic earlier and told a reporter to fuck off in a press conference earlier today.
yeah, and on top of all that, the entire offensive line was not even at practice today. So what is that going to do?
Right. Exactly. So as long as the Bills, just handle their business and keep doing what they're doing, we should be fine. I
I
wouldn't
think
even
they
worry about
will.
it.
I'm not gonna say, well, I'm not worried about the Chargers because they still got some good players. They got some good ball players, Keenan Allen,
Yeah.
Austin Eckler, etc. They still got a pretty good defense, but the Chargers, their team is just bad because of Brandon Staley.
Hmm.
But with the interim, you really don't know what you're gonna get. But
Right.
who knows?
Yeah. Could be a slightly different scheme, but in either case, I mean, even with those changes, as long as the Bills just handle their business and approach it in that way, they're gonna be fine. So that's definitely good to see with what they're doing.
Yeah,
But that being said, let's talk about let's end the show on a good note. So of course we will not be here next week because it is the Christmas holiday, so we're taking the week off. And of course what we want to say to everybody that watches us is, of course, we hope you have a great holiday and enjoy your Christmas and or Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. But that being said, let's talk about the road to 32 Buffalo, because you basically crashed at my place for a few days. And well, actually the apartment you crashed at, not my actual
yeah.
house. But that being said, you ended up coming in and let's just say we got you loaded up on wings, beef on weck, beer, more beer, more beer on top of that. You saw one shitty ass hockey game that none of us should have ever went to.
And we also saw a great football game.
Yes. And then we
So
had more beer to drown our sorrows from the hockey game.
oh God, yeah. Well, first off, before I get to that, I should also mention that Bills Cowboys game was the most watched game of the week with 26.3 million viewers, and I
Yeah.
believe that's an NFL record for a regular season game.
Hmm.
What
It
there's
is
not a
up
truer
there.
statement than that, honestly.
Yeah. But yeah,
But
let's talk about the trip. So you're up here
absolutely.
for 5 days.
Yes, I was. I was in Buffalo for 5 days. I got to see this fuckhead over here. We had a great time all around. I left on Friday morning around 5 o'clock in the morning for Buffalo, and my buddy Chris Millman, who I mentioned earlier, who is my coworker, and we've worked together for 10 years, and we still to this day do. Um, that guy is a diehard Cowboys fan. We've been talking about it for 5 years about doing a Bills Cowboys game. But I told Tom leading up to the trip, I said, dude, I have comp time that I have to use before the end of the year.
Mhm.
So I'm going to use it to spend 2 extra days in Buffalo. And that's exactly what I did. So we took up a road trip instead of flying, which would be about an hour. I mean, that's not really a road trip because I didn't feel like renting a car. So instead, we just drove 6.5 hours, got
Mhm.
Doritos, got sun chips, things like that. And we were just chatting, and we went to Cooperstown as a minor detour. We spent 2 hours in Cooperstown and saw the National Baseball Hall of Fame Museum, which
Mhm.
was fun to go to, but it was a little underwhelming because I thought it was a little longer than that, considering it's America's pastime. And
Right.
then we went to Buffalo. We met at Bar Bill on Friday with Tom and Vinny Torcasio, who was ecstatic to meet me. And he was just like, yo, I'm so excited you're here. So that's the first day.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
so why don't you tell him about the second day?
Well, that we loaded you up on wings over at Barbell, which we had to take you to a good place. We didn't want you to go to one of the tourist traps. So, but then let's see, day two. That was day up in Toronto, and we went up fairly earlier in the morning. I mean, we got there a reasonable time. Trying to think exactly how we went about it first, but we did go out to the Rogers Center, so you actually got to take a walk around the Blue Jays team store, which was pretty cool to see since none of us have ever been in there. Then on top of it, we went to the Railway Museum, which is actually right near the stadium, which was very interesting. So we got to do that. Walked through Scotiabank Arena, saw the Maple Leafs and Raptors team store, which I don't think you had ever been to before, but it
I think I did
happened.
like 10 years ago, but I hardly remember it.
Yeah, but in either case, I mean, it was right there since we took the subway into Union Station, so that worked out pretty well. And
Mhm.
which I will say, anyone going into Toronto, easy way to go in there, park your car in Vaughan, take line 1 on the subway all the way down to Union. You'll be right in downtown Toronto. 40 minutes on the train. Very simple and straightforward. And buy the all-day pass too, because that's a lot better. But then on top of it, we ended up grabbing some lunch, and then we went to the Hockey Hall of Fame. So of course, we all got to see the real Stanley Cup.
Yeah. Well, you should also mention that we also went to the Railroad Museum in Toronto.
Yeah,
We forgot to.
I already did.
Oh, you did? I
Yeah,
probably wasn't thinking at that time. But yeah,
yeah.
so we spent about maybe an hour at the Railroad Museum. So that was pretty fun. We got
Mhm.
lunch, which was not that great. I didn't really care for it. It was very
Yeah,
bland.
me either. Me
I didn't
either. It
really care for
wasn't
it.
great. We just
No.
needed something for the meantime, but
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 anyway, so we went to
yeah.
the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto, and I want to just clear this up real quick. I've been to the Hall of Fame, and I've gotten my picture with the Stanley
Hmm.
Cup 3 times,
Yep.
but Millman has never been to Toronto. He's been to Canada briefly, but not a full day in Canada. So he went to
Hmm.
Toronto, and we all got a picture with the Stanley Cup. In fact, I actually want to show you guys. I know it's going to be hard for the viewers on Spotify to see it, but I'm going to explain it. So yeah, it was a great overall time in Toronto. I'm going to show it off real quick. So I have it right here in this little Hockey Hall of Fame envelope.
Hmm.
And if I remove the picture, which I'm going to do now, there's a picture with the us in the middle with the Stanley Cup.
Hmm.
So I'm on the left, Millman's in the middle right, and then Tom is looking like Captain Serious over here on the far
Yeah.
right as well. And then of course I got to touch the Stanley Cup and all that fun jazz. And yeah, it was really, really fun. Millman learned a lot from the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and he got to learn a
Hmm.
lot at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. And we got a picture with the Stanley Cup, which was hell of a lot of fun. It's
Yep.
always cherishable to have when you're at the hall. So yeah, I had a really good time, getting pictures with the Stanley Cup and all that jazz, and then
Hmm.
all that jazz.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we ended up getting back into Buffalo a little bit later and at night. So we ended up doing that. Then of course, Sunday morning, that's when we made our way out to the stadium. So pretty much with that, for anyone who likes to tailgate, of course, there's plenty of opportunities there. We actually were at Wings Meeting Place, which is just right on the other side of the stadium. Worked out easy in, easy out, no problems there. And all I could say is you got some leftover beer you took home. I have some leftover beer. We definitely went through quite a bit of it. Game itself was great to see. And then pretty much after that, then of course Monday was just sort of the downtime day. And I know you went around to Niagara Falls, you went into Buffalo as well on your own because I had to work. And then we went for some sushi and Japanese food up in Lockport, where you stayed, which is my neck of the woods. So we went to a place called Steakstone Sushi, which has been around the area for, I want to say, I think it's like 8 years now, but they have 2 locations. Lockport's the original, Niagara Falls is the newer one, but both great food. I mean, I've been there plenty of times. I know you enjoyed what you had. And then from there, then Tuesday, which was yesterday, was the shit show Sabres game.
Yeah, so let's go back to Sunday in Orchard Park. So first off, I want to just say, as much as fun as we had at the game, we should talk about the weather. The weather played a huge impact, and Tom and I bought ponchos at Highmark Stadium right on the outside
Mm-hmm.
of the parking lot at the game, and it was a 4-person trip. It was me and Tom, Millman and his brother Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
So all 4 of us, and his brother goes to Fredonia in Buffalo for college, and he's never been to a Bills game in his life until today, until that day. So we ended up going together as all 4 of us, and the weather was it was like muddy, it was cold, it was raining, it was windy, and we actually had to take a shortcut into the woodsier area to get into Highmark Stadium. And my really good Bill sneakers got really, muddy, and I'm kind of pissed off about that, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
clean it up when it gets better. And then and yeah, there were a lot of Cowboys fans at the game, and Tom tried to directionlessly get us to fucking Hammer Lot. And it's like, hey, let me show you guys around. And so walking miles and miles, and Millman's like, okay, where the fuck are we going? And Tom just sits there. He's like, oh, I'm trying to be Pinto Ron. And Chris looks at him and he's like, who the fuck's Pinto Ron? And I had to explain it to him was that he's a super fan that douses himself in
Mm-hmm.
ketchup and mustard and
Yep.
cooks food on a red Pinto. So that's
Yep.
basically what it
It
is.
has a Polish, does the bowling ball shots.
Yeah, and the bowling ball shots. So, and of course, jumping through tables. And Millman was even
Yep.
kind of down on it. He's like, I'm kind of surprised. I'm kind of dumbfounded. Maybe it's just me, but he said at that time, it might just be me, but I'm kind of let down about it. I'm like, why? And he says, because, we didn't really get to see people jumping through tables and all that stuff. Like, to be fair, it was rainy as hell and it was windy and,
Right.
muddy and all that. So I don't think
Right.
anybody really wanted to get their jersey wet.
Yeah. Plus, in Hammer's lot, we were so far back from where they actually were doing the table jumping. So,
Yeah, that's so it was, and it was too crowded, so we couldn't really see
yeah.
anything for that matter. So, I mean, I did say to Tom, I'm like, "Are you satisfied? You actually got a chance to step your foot at the Hammerline?" He's like, "Yeah, definitely." So we had to walk back to Orchard Park, right down to Highmark Stadium, and go to the game. And we sat all the way down in the bleachers area because Tom's like, "I've never sat up there before." So the two of us are
Hmm.
there and I got two souvenir cups, one for me and one for my wife, because she really wanted the cup because she's a fan of the original, Red Bull logo, basically, or whatever
Hmm.
color it is. And she really, really likes that logo. So she wanted me to get two souvenir cups. So I did. And yeah, it was just rainy and muddy and everything in between. So generally though, we had a fun time at the Bills game.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a good one to go to. And that was definitely one of the most fun games I've been to, even with the weather being as bad as it was. I mean, it was definitely a lot of fun to be there. So it was a great win. Then Monday was our downtime day. Tuesday, we already talked about how bad the Sabres game was. And then you left this morning and you ended up home like by early afternoon at the latest. So
Well, Monday I went to Niagara Falls. So you were working and you couldn't get out of work either way until like the next day, which we'll get to. I went to Niagara Falls and I spent about 3 hours there. I got there at like 9:30 in the morning because it's a 24-hour event. So I went there and I parked my car, did what I had to do, and I took pictures of Niagara Falls. And I had a lot of fun traveling by myself and getting pictures and video for Road to 32 and all that jazz. So that was exciting. And I love going to Niagara Falls generally.
mhm.
It's just a beautiful piece of landscape, honestly, just looking at it and everything with the falls going down. I love it.
Mhm.
But as far as that goes, afterwards I went to the Anchor Bar at Niagara Falls, and that was fun for me at least. I know Tom's not a fan of it, but that's just his
It's
opinion.
okay. It's just overrated, in my opinion. I think there's better wing spots you can go to, but I mean, I've been there before. It's not horrible. Is it the best? I don't think it is. Is it the worst? No, I've been to other wing places that are worse, but I just think it's a little overrated.
Right. So I go to the one in Niagara Falls, and I'm just enjoying my lunch. And then all of a sudden, I'm eating chicken wings, beef on whack, and all that bullshit,
Hmm.
fried pickles. So I did all that, and then right afterwards, I had a little incident at the Bills game, and I kind of regret telling the story because it's important and it's actually part of the journey.
Hmm.
Is I lost, and the Bills I lost a game day pin for the Bills Cowboys game, and it was in my bag. And the problem was because it was raining so hard at that time, the
Hmm.
bag ripped right through, and it took a good portion of all the large stuff out of the bag. But what I think happened was I might have lost the pin at the Bills game in our seats. So I didn't really think about it as I thought I buried it in the scarf or whatever. So next thing you know, I'm looking around, I can't find it, and I paid like $10 for that. So the day after, I went to One Bill's Drive, and I asked the guy, and I said, "Oh shit, Tom, you still there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm here.
What the fuck just happened, dude?"
Oh, yeah, my camera just went out for a moment, but I'm still here.
Oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. But you scared me for a second. But yeah. So, anyways, so I go to One Bill's Drive and I go up to the manager and I said, "Excuse me, do you guys have the pins from yesterday's game?" And he says, "Unfortunately, we just sold the last one 3 hours ago." And I'm just like, "God damn it!" So immediately after, I went on eBay and I bought the actual pin for $28. So it's being shipped to my house, and I should be getting it before Christmas. So that's gonna be exciting, and I can at least put it on my Road to 32 game day pin wall picture frame. But and then afterwards I went to the Buffalo store because my wife wanted me to get her something while I was at the store, and I got her a pair of Bill's like sweatpants. So I got her that, and I also got her a green long sleeve t-shirt from the Anchor Bar in Niagara Falls. So that's that. And
Cool.
then afterwards I met up with Tom, and then we went to dinner on Monday evening. Where did we go on Monday?
Yeah, it's called Stick Stone Sushi up in Lockport. It's a sushi house. They do Japanese hibachi entrees. They do some Thai food, things like that. So definitely a good spot. It's been around in the area. Well, they have one in Niagara Falls also, but Lockport's the original. They've been around, I want to say about 7 or 8 years now, but definitely one of my go-tos when it comes to that. They have some really good food there.
Yeah, that's where we went. And then I went to Mighty Taco within the first like 2 days because I didn't know any place that would open around between 10 or 11 at the time. So I like Mighty Taco personally. I know Tom says it's not the same, but for me, to me as a tourist, I would probably be like, well, I'd like to have to go to Mighty Taco. And I did. I went there twice.
Hmm.
And it was really filling on Saturday and it was really filling on Sunday, like late Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, whatever it was. And then Tuesday we met up. I was by myself. I went to downtown. I went to the Sabre store. I went to downtown Buffalo and went to the Sabre store, got some stuff, and I went back to the apartment. I met with Tom and we went to the Sabres game and from there was the biggest shit show I've seen in a while.
Yeah, exactly. That was just straight up brutal. I mean, easily top three worst Sabres game I've ever been to.
Yeah, hands down. There's no in between with what happened, at that point. But I mean, we already went on a rant about the Sabres, and we pretty much talked about the Bills game at that point. So
Yeah.
my time in Buffalo, I always have a fun time in Buffalo, no matter when I go or whoever I go with. I always have fun,
Mhm.
no matter who it is. But the only thing I kind of regret is not bringing Brittany, and it's a completely different story in a different situation, is because she had no days left to use for vacation time, so she couldn't go to the game. And what's even worse is she couldn't watch the game on Sunday because my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law don't have cable at their apartment. And it was my nephew's birthday, and he just turned 2. So they didn't have the game on. So she had to just sit there on Sunday with no game. And she was asking me, like, I bet that was a fun game to be going at and all that. I'm like, oh, you have no idea.
Mhm. Yeah, so with that being said, I mean it was definitely a good time. I know that you certainly enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as well. We got to do some fun things again, and of course, I know you'll have the episode on your channel coming up, and of course, actually, when it comes out, we'll link it on ours as well. So we'll get that going. But I mean, like I said, it was always a good time, and it was definitely enjoyable, and you got to see quite a few people, so that was a big plus. And really from that, now just we'll figure out when the next time is that any of us come up, but it'll be good though. So no, glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. I always enjoy my like I said, I always enjoy going to Buffalo no matter what. I always enjoy the chicken wings up there. They're always Buffalo wings are always killer. Beef on whack is always good. Bill's Mafia is just as electrifying as ever. The Sabres, they brought back the goat head jersey, but that didn't mean shit because they didn't win. So
Of course.
those are my all-time favorite hockey uniforms, no matter what. I mean, even before I was a Sabres fan, even before I became one, like 25, 26 years ago. But that's not the point. So, no, I had a fun time in Buffalo. The weather is usually what I would suspect. It's cold, snowy, rainy, windy, all that jazz. So I had a fun time. Niagara Falls is beautiful.
Mhm. It definitely is. So with that being said, first for everyone that's been watching the episode tonight, well, when it actually comes out, because of the fact that, well, first Zoom had a nice little upgrade that Facebook totally botched, and then now my camera's out, so that's kind of how that went. But I mean, we still made it work either way. So really, the biggest thing we want to say is for everyone who's had the opportunity to join us this year, certainly thanks for joining us, and now we're 157 episodes deep. So we appreciate it. To everyone who joins us, have a good Christmas. Enjoy, have a good holiday. Enjoy the time with your family and friends. And we'll be gone next week, but we'll see you in the first week of January when we come back after the holiday.
Yeah, so as far as me, I just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody who celebrates. Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah for those who just celebrated. Ultimately, Happy Birthday, Jesus. Happy New Year. We'll see y'all in 2024 when we come back on January 3rd. have a happy and healthy holiday coming up, and of course, be safe. And Tom and I both, and I want to both say, thank you for sticking with us for all these years. Thank you for listening to us. It means the world to us, and we don't take you guys for granted. We want to let you guys know that you're in our thoughts every day, no matter how we put out these episodes. So we just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody, and we're going to be on a little hiatus, but that's okay. And I mean, if something comes up, we'll briefly talk about it. But outside of that, um, enjoy the holiday, man. You only get to do it once a year, so you may as well enjoy it while you can.
Absolutely. So, with that being said, of course, as we usually do, take care of yourselves and each other. We'll see you the next time.